This is UMBC Careers Unleashed, where we unleash stories, insights, and expertise to support you on your career journey. Let's dive in.
What's up, Retrievers?
What's up, y'all?
Yes, we are.
Welcome back.
I am your resident career coach, Stephanie Taylor Okoukoni, and we are back with our special guest and co-host for the day. Tell them your name.
Fellow peer, Isaiah Dunn.
Yes.
I also go to UMBC. You probably seen me before in the Commons eating Dunkin' Donuts, looking very sad. No, I'm joking.
So we're going into a little different area of our second podcast with unleashing the interview. Yes. Here on UMBC Careers Unleashed, the pod. We got a pod. So for those who didn't see our premiere episode, tell the folks a little bit about yourself, who you are.
I'm Isaiah Dunn. I'm a political science junior at UMBC. I'm involved in a bunch of different things. I'm a musician, but my main focus is on political science, the law, stuff like that.
Yeah, so you just like,
I be around town,
Exactly.
I make music videos. I take pictures a lot on my Instagram. I don't know. I'm just a regular guy.
I got you. So here on the pod, right? UMBC Careers Unleashed. We have a little segment that we like to do called Career Controversy.
And I've actually brought one today.
Yeah. Kick it over to you. Let's see what we got.
All right, so.
Oh, wait, career controversy. For the folks who don't know.
What is it?
What is a career controversy? Right. Career controversy is where we take a career or a professional and we share like a hot take on, is this controversial? Like, where do you stand
exactly
in the controversy? Okay, go ahead. Take it away.
All right. How much should you prepare for an interview?
So you want me to answer?
I want you to answer.
You want me to answer?
I want you to answer.
Baby, after I answer, you might not even want to tell the folks where you stand. I'm gonna give it so good. Should you prepare? Well, why are you asking me that question? Number one.
How much should you prepare?
How much? I mean, as much as you need to. That would be my answer, right? As much as you need to. And so I'm just speaking for folks because you asking me, right? Like I prepare. I think that over the course of my career, right, where I am, I've probably been in the workforce, I don't know, for a little while now. We not gonna tell everybody, how old I am, even though I love to say my age. That previous interviews that I have been on and previous interviews that I have been in have been preparation. So right. I've got like a stockpile of preparation, right? It's like kind of like, in my proverbial briefcase, right? Like that's the professional bag. When there are some things that I have because I've interviewed, several times, and I've also been in interviews that gives me confidence. So that's like flat out. Now, if I were applying for something that I felt like was like a reach job, right? Like now I'm not making a move in my career where I'm trying to, be on the same tier, but possibly do something that I've never done before. Right. That's when I'm going to do a little preparation. Even though I'm comfortable talking, even though I feel like, that for me, I think and do well in the moment and on the fly. And I like that feeling of organic, like kind of conversation that happens in an interview. I think that to take it to the next level of my career, I probably would do some preparation. I would go on the, company website. I might look up some of the folks that if I know who's going to be interviewing me, I might check them out on LinkedIn. And then I might hop on YouTube, like how the folks, if they're getting our content now for YouTube, and kind of get some tips and tricks on how to be successful. That might be, I'm not necessarily a talk in the mirror or on camera, like record myself. I don't need that level, but I definitely, that would be probably my prep process.
Okay.
Yeah.
My hot take, which honestly, after hearing you talk about yours, might change.
See, I told you. That's how I have that effect on people.
All that knowledge.
Yeah.
No, but my hot take is that I don't prepare for interviews like at all.
Okay.
Like I really just go in. Like anyone that's interviewed me in the past that's watching this, and anyone in the future, I was like, I looked like, I look at the company.
Okay.
I know what company I'm interviewing
Mhm,
for, right?
mhm,
I've looked into the company that I'm interviewing for. So I
mhm.
don't know if you count that as prep.
I just did, but you maybe not.
I don't know if I count that as prep. Cause that's like you did that. You should have done that before applying. You should have
Okay.
been like
That's
checked
like
out
the homework,
You-
But you're
you
saying
should-
actual for the
for
like
the interview
when
itself.
they hit rolling on the interview.
Right.
Uh-huh.
For the interview itself, I don't really do anything except get dressed,
Okay.
prepare myself mentally, confidence boost myself.
Uh-huh.
I do my little Wonder Woman pose,
Mm-hmm.
and then I get in there and I'm like, I am just me.
Answer. I'm here.
Because I think it's best to give people the most raw version of yourself, the most real version of yourself,
Mhm.
so they can decide like, do I want to work with this person?
Mhm.
Is this somebody you like to work with?
Mhm.
And my answer for that is people love working with me.
Oh.
And now everybody in the comments is gonna be like, I hated working with you. You were actually the worst person I ever worked with. No, but,
You
know,
were my
like,
RA and
you sucked horribly.
trash.
Anthony,
No.
you better not. No, I think it's best to just give people
Okay.
But after hearing your answer, I think like doing a little bit of just like a little more extra on top of it, like especially because it depends on where you are, right?
Mhm.
I say that because I'm a college junior. I'm not really applying for like a job that's like consequential in like a big way.
Okay.
Like when I'm applying for jobs, it's like, yes, these jobs are important.
Mhm.
Yes, these jobs are going to help increase my career.
Mhm.
And they're gonna help me in like various different ways.
Okay.
But is it like, do I like need this job right now? Like as like a, like, do I really need to have this
I
job
get
right
what you're
now?
saying. You're
Yeah.
saying that as far as what you think about like your professional trajectory post college, is this position a make it or break it? I get what you're saying.
Like it's okay if I don't get this job because I can apply to another one and everything
I
will
would
be
argue
fine.
you down on that, but we're not gonna go there.
Really?
I think and this is now here we go. This is a hot take. But I feel like that life wastes nothing.
Right.
And every experience that you get, whether it be, and I hear this a lot. We've kind of went off topic. I'm gonna bring it back though. I feel like that a lot of folks will say, well, I was like a babysitter, or I worked at Chick-fil-A,
Right.
right? Like, and in the mind frame, they have discredited, at least the way it comes across, that they have kind of diminished the value of that because it is a little bit asymmetrical to what they plan on doing after college.
Yeah.
In some ways, right? But the skills that you learned, a lot of them, right, if we break them down to their bare bones, which we call transferable skills, can be used for the whole duration of not even just your professional career proper, but throughout your life.
I totally agree with
Right?
that.
Like Chick-fil-A, when people come and smash their bag on the table and say, you got my order wrong, and you like take your little deep breath and you're like, okay, well, what can we do to make it right? Like, and to be able to learn those skills is just like, you can't buy that.
Right.
You know what I mean? So even though I understand in essence what you're saying, that it's asymmetrical, I would still argue that it's valuable.
I'm actually I think this is really important. That's why I'm sticking here.
Okay.
But I'm not saying that I don't think that those jobs are like unimportant in that way.
Yeah, I got you.
I mean, in the grand scheme of things,
Yeah.
if I don't get this job, it's not going to break me as a person.
Uh-huh.
If I don't get this job, I don't have like a family to feed right now.
Okay.
If I don't get this job, I'm not going to be out on the street.
I got you.
I have time to like get my stuff together and figure it out next time.
Uh-huh.
So that's what I meant by that, like being at that stage.
The consequence of not getting that for you is not a make it or break. I got
Exactly.
you. I got
So
you.
so the preparation for me looks like I get to just be myself. There's nothing really riding on this. If I don't get it, I would be okay. So I will just be myself. I don't need to primp and prune and do all this extra stuff and make myself uncomfortable for no reason.
I got you. That I just had an aha moment, and so it's like that. Right now, you're in your authentic era.
Yeah.
If you don't take me the way that I am, then I don't need to be here.
I don't need to be here, and I don't want to work here if you don't want me here.
I got you. You know what? And this is, and I think we're going to coin this. We're going to coin this for the pod, right? I want everybody in our pod to know when I say sagey, right? Because sage, it's like the wise one. If I were, I'm a sage. This, what I'm about to say, is pretty sagey.
Okay.
Okay. It's real sagey. I feel like that there are different kinds of people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think from my experience in like supporting students,
Right.
that I get to experience those different kinds of people. And if we're going to break it down to two camps, it's the free spirit, take me as I am. I'm going in there. I'm going in there. And then there's the person who has read the job description 9 times and it's just like, anxiety potentially just being in the social setting, or they're concerned about measuring up. And so they want a prescriptive way to prepare, right, for those folks. And so and they're asking for more like traditional ways to prepare, right? Like, well, what can I do? And we'll get into that a little bit later. But I say that the prescriptive person and the person who is more free spirited, I think that they both prepare. And I think that the preparation just looks different.
You might have ate with that one.
Yeah, because when I that's why I asked you, did you want me to go first? Because I was like, you and I maybe share the ability to communicate, so we're not necessarily nervous about the performance part.
Right.
Like, and even though I don't necessarily want to like project out there that an interview is a performance, but I mean our ability to deliver the message, we might not necessarily
deliver ourselves,
right?
Like, because not everyone can deliver who they are actually in words, in a quick manner,
right,
in an authentic manner, in a very like short period of time. That's very real. And
so maybe because that's not necessarily the struggle, the way that we then prepare might be, like you said, you should have already done that, gone to the website and maybe check some YouTube things, or maybe had conversations with people and you're like, oh, I like that, I'm like, I'm gonna keep that, you write that down. So that's kind of like my little sagey piece to it, is that even no matter what camp you're in, I think that everybody is preparing in some way. You're an RA. You already kind of shared that with us even in this episode. But this isn't your first year being
not my first year being an RA.
Right.
They make you reapply and re-interview every single year, by the way.
I'm sure. Yeah, and as they should.
They should. It's very important. People get complacent.
Yeah, as they should. And it's also preparation, right? But so let's say, for example, right, this one was probably not as pressurous, if that's a word, as the first time. So let's take you back to like last year. And you're like doing that RA application.
I put on my little business suit.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay. So like, what was your interview process? What were the things that you took into consideration? Maybe not prepare, if you don't like that word, but like, what was your pre-interview process?
My pre-interview process was to ask all my friends that were RAs everything about the role. Like, I wanted to know what people, like, what their job looked like on the day-to-day. Basically finding out, is this a job that I would like?
Okay.
Like, is this something that I would want to do? Would I want to, like, die if I worked there? Like, is that, like, basically, can I survive and work this job at the same time?
Okay.
To break it all the way down. So, yeah, I was going around asking people, like, oh, like, what do you like about your job? What do you hate about your job? Like, what do you love about your job? What's like, who gets on your nerves at your job? Like, I had the place scoped out. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay.
So like, and again, I don't really count that as preparation, because I'm like, that was before I even applied.
So that's like your intel. That's your research.
Yes. So
it's like, do I want this? I got you.
So after hearing what I heard, I was like, this job sounds perfect for me. It sounds like I would love this job.
Okay.
Let me apply.
Okay.
So I filled out my application. I got accepted for an interview.
Okay.
The interview process. Thank you. The interview process looked like 2 rounds of interviews. First round, you would just come in, do a standard interview. They'd ask you your normal like interview questions. And then the second round of interviews, you do a presentation. They got rid of this. They don't do this anymore.
Okay.
We were the last year who had to actually get it out the mud and do a presentation.
I love that. I love that when you are like, yes, I am the last generation.
It was because That's where the real RAs like that's where they really got the real RAs from.
Yes. Yes.
Shout out to all the new RAs. But we had to do a presentation in the second round.
Uh-huh.
My preparation looked like for the people listening, I'm doing a little dance. And like just like, you know, living my life. And then the day of the interview came and I put on my nice outfit. I put on my nicest outfit I had at the time, which was a pair of slacks from Men's Warehouse and a button-up, I almost said t-shirt, a button-up long sleeve dress shirt from Men's Warehouse, also from Men's Warehouse, and some nice dress socks, some nice dress shoes. And I walked my way up to the ACC, sat down for that interview, and I smiled real hard. And they asked me some questions, and you know,
and you got the job.
I got that job. Well, I got to the second round of the interviews.
Okay.
The second round of the interviews, I actually did prepare for it because you have to do a presentation.
Yeah.
So it forces you to prepare. I did my presentation. I showed them how to make a jersey beat.
Oh, wow.
On like in a DAW.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
What's a DAW?
Digital audio workspace.
Got you.
Sorry, I'm using.
So here's my thing, right? And I know a little bit about you, right? We developed a little bit of a relationship, and I know you've done a variety of different things in your career, right? And no, I do this air quotes thing, right? Because sometimes I think that these key words and like traditional words, if that's what we want to call them, sometimes they can be controversial in themselves, like career. Or what is a career? You know, so I just say that, like in your career, like across your experience, right? Have you ever put yourself out there for, applied for, or been in pursuit of something that made you like a role that made you nervous?
I think the RA job actually did make me nervous.
It did?
It did. But I coped with that nervousness in a different way.
Okay, so tell me, one, why do you think, looking back on it, it made you nervous? And then two, how did you cope with that nervousness?
So it's like what I was talking about before with the stakes, right? Like there were actual stakes attached to this. Okay. There were like my reason for applying for the job was first because it sounded like a job that I wanted to do. Community building is super important to me, and it sounded like I would get to do like a lot of that. But second, the job comes with like housing. Half off your tuition. Yeah. And like it would really help my family out. With paying for everything. And I was like, we were in a situation where that needed to happen. Yeah. And so I needed to get this job. Okay. And so materially my life would be different if I did not get this job. Okay. Which was the first time I'd ever been placed in that kind of situation. So I was a little nervous. How did I cope with the nervousness? Yeah. If I'm being honest, I didn't. You didn't? I went in scared. I went in myself. Yeah. Because I was like, oh, I am nervous. And I said that the first thing I said when I sat down was like, they asked, how are you doing? Which is like how every conversation starts. And I said, I'm so nervous right now, if I can be like very honest with you. And if I'm being real, I think that like brings people in because you're being yourself. So like I communicated like, absolutely. Yes, I am super nervous right now. But I'm also super excited to like get this interview started. Are you like my twin? I feel like we are kindred spirits in some ways, really, because even from my sagey perspective, right? Like, I feel like that when I come up against or I come into the company of someone who may be more concerned about the like performative aspects of interviewing, that I say name it. Because a little bit that kind of like lets the air out of the bag a little bit. Like yes. if the air, like if the bag is tense, you just poke a little hole and then it kind of creates a, and it's like, so if, you saying, I'm, and maybe not say the word nervous, but might be, and this is something else I'll also share is that instead of, I think these two, realities probably occupy the same space, right? Nervousness and excitement. Yeah. Right. They're like the opposite ends of the same spectrum. I might say, I'm so excited, or I am so grateful for this opportunity. So if I come across jittery or nervous in a way, it's because I want to
do my best, and that's really important to me. So you say that right in the beginning, and it just lets the air out of the bag, because now everybody is, like you said, you drawing them in. So I really like that you said that. So here's my thing, right? So you are what you like to say. You're from around the way.
I'm from around the way.
You from Maryland. You're from Maryland.
I'm from Maryland.
Right? And then you probably are around the way on campus, meaning that you like in a lot of different pockets.
I'm in the pub. I'm in the public policy building. I do come to Math and Psych every now and then to come to the Career Center.
Exactly. And you better come see us. So with that, I think that you probably have experienced, whether it was formal or informal, like a lot of different interview processes and experiences. Tell me, are there any like overdone or overplayed questions? Like every interview, you're just like, I know they're going to ask me this question.
It would have to be one of those behavioral questions that all the interviewers like always ask, that you can guarantee like someone is going to ask you. When's the time that you've had to work with a team to solve a problem?
Oh, age old. Age old. And so you know what that is, and I mean, is it valuable? I feel like it is.
Oh yeah.
Because it's intel in some ways, but it's kind of overplayed.
There's a reason that question's being asked, but it's like,
and let's come on. We're getting ready to unleash this interview. Okay? Our people, there's probably been a time where you have been in a group setting and it has gone way wrong. Like left.
Right.
You're not telling that story.
Yeah.
You're like picking that
someone
time.
did tell me that story. I was doing an interview for a job and they told me a crazy story. I was like, yo, you should not be telling me that right now.
So that's like, so you're curating. Listen, you may have 10 collaboration experiences. You want to pick the one.
She was like,
that's when authenticity gets too
real.
Too authentic.
Like, this is a little too real, girl.
Right. It's too authentic, but it is not necessarily crafted correctly.
You didn't Smith that
but
thing.
two, that sometimes you can rebound from mistakes made.
Yeah.
That's like real human. That's like really human. So these overplayed questions, and I brought that up because, right, like we live in the age of not only the internet, right? Like the information age, that's like, a generation gone by. We're like in AI now, right? We're like next level. Like we're like where our technology is learning from itself and everybody else, And I say that to say like there are ways to go out there to find out like the typical interview questions, right? That you're going to come up against. So there's some things that you can do to kind of like prep, and not prep like, but to be like not as caught off guard if that would be a concern that you would have.
Yeah. If you were nervous about that, I swear to God, like if you Google top 10 interview questions and prepare for all of them, at least one of them is going to be asked in that interview.
So then this brings me, because you said something like they are asking these behavioral interview questions, like, aside from like how you deal with certain situations, what other like kinds of interview questions? You actually named another one where you had a prompt, you had to deliver something, right? There's another, I think two different category ones like that I think also happen in interviews, because they usually have a flow, right? Like it's like the first one that we didn't talk about that, but that's like the introduction,
right? The
getting to know you question. Like the age old, which is kind of overplayed. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Elevator pitch, yep.
And the elevator pitch. Okay, so okay, your elevator pitch. Like,
ooh, I don't have one.
You just kind of say what you feel in the moment.
Yeah, and this is something I actually really need to work on.
Here's my thing, right? Because if you're a communicator, like what would be the elements, right? Because you're not telling us what you ate for cereal this morning or what your favorite cartoon was when you were growing up. What kind of determines what you want to share in that tell me about yourself moment?
What makes me feel cool about myself?
Okay.
Like what makes me feel most in my body and most like awesome? Like what makes me be like, oh my God, that like I'm so cool, I'm so awesome. Mm-hmm. Like what have I done in my life that made me feel like I was just like that dude?
Okay.
And then that's what I talk about, because it's like when I'm doing that and I'm talking about the things that I get excited about, then I'm just going to get excited.
But you were you're I'm stepping into our kindredness
Right.
that I would imagine, and tell me if I'm wrong,
Hmm.
that what makes you feel awesome, what you naturally get excited about, because that communicates well, you pick something that you like that is aligned with the job in some
Of
way.
course.
It's not like, skateboarding, and
Yeah.
and it's, even though you may be passionate about that, if it doesn't align anyway, or you can't come up with a way to connect it to the role, then you probably would pick something to connect. So I think that makes sense. Something that is authentic, something that makes you feel like excited to communicate, but that draws a connection to your fittedness for that role.
Right.
That makes sense. So we got that getting to know you. That's usually at the top of the interview, at least from my
100%.
perspective and my
Yeah.
experience. It's like, tell me a little bit about yourself. And I think it's cool that you did that, because it's like you're telling them something about yourself that they couldn't get from your resume too. Right? Because like if you just recite your resume or your cover letter to me again, well, I mean, that's fine, but like this is next level. I like that. Then usually what happens is they go into the behavioral questions. Here's the one we didn't talk about, is that each job usually has like a technical questions aspect.
Mm,
That might not be the first interview. It depends on what the format is like for the company.
exactly.
But usually that's either like next level interview, or if it's only one interview, then like it comes next. It's like, okay, I'm now asking you something about your experience or something that you've done, or how you would handle an element of the work, right? So like, say for example, if I were interviewing you to, I could say be an RA, right? It might be like, if you were in this situation where there was a roommate issue that went awry.
And this is a question that they do ask.
Exactly. And, it was like, a certain time, you had to handle this. Like, what would be your steps, or how would you address this, and what would be like the protocol or way that you would go about like handling that or whatever.
Right.
And that you'd have to kind of like dig into your knowledge, right? A little bit about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
So
get that technical experience.
yeah, and not to say that I want to ask you that question. We're not role playing for an interview or anything. Like, I'm not really asking you, but there are some technical elements, and those things change over industry, right? Like if you were trying to apply for a software development internship, I may ask you your experience around, like something in software development, right? Or like your experience around user experience, like how do you make something user friendly or whatever like that. So that's something cool. And then the prompts, like you talked about, those usually you get that ahead of time. It's like, okay, right? Like, this is what I want to see, what you authentically create. So now we talked about like your prep process. We talked about being nervous and overcoming it. We talked about like the flow of the interview. And I don't really necessarily want to dig into it so much. But there is this thing called the STAR method. Have you ever heard of that?
I've never heard of that.
So the STAR method, and it usually it's helpful in answering behavioral questions. This is for that person that's like, they need the guide and they find help. And it's even for people who maybe feel more comfortable. But it's like a research-based method for answering it, and it's STAR, right? So STAR.
Does R stand for relate?
No. Oh, yeah,
dang.
No. Don't that gimmick just get you when you think you know? And
I thought I ate that one.
And it ate you.
Yeah, it ate me up.
Goodness. So STAR, right? So S, right? STAR, situation, task, action, and result.
Results.
Okay. So like if they're asking you something about like your experience or something that you've done in the past, right? Now what you're doing is you're thinking back to a situation. It's like, okay, I remember one time I had the opportunity to do blah, 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 blah. And right, and then you push into the task where we had to come up with, an event for residents, like a proposed event for residents.
Right.
And I had to, figure out how I would get, people aware of it, what would be the logistics for the event, da, 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 da. And then you would say, okay, and so what I did was I, maybe ask some folks what was an event they wanted to go to, or maybe I asked them RAs like events that they've thrown in the past. That would be the action, and the result was, and I came up with, just like a run of show for an event, or I even hosted that event, and then, had people come. So it's kind of like a structure for answering, usually like behavioral, maybe even situation. It's like an action based,
That's good.
kind of thing. So that usually helps folks too.
I like that.
Now, here's my thing. We went through the flow, but usually at the end of interviews, they kick it back to you.
You.
Yeah. And they ask you, do you have any questions for us?
And get into this.
How do you handle that?
I still don't prepare. This is one that I've recently have been like, after coming out of some recent interviews, I've been like, yo, like maybe I should like prep a question. Because they catch me on the spot and I'm like, let me think about that.
Uh-huh.
And there's that like awkward quietness. And I'm like, okay. And then I have a question for them.
I want to pause you right there. You naturally do the things that I think people who maybe are more concerned about their performance or how they come across, you naturally do the things that maybe doesn't come natural to other people, because what you did just there, what you said, that's a good question. Let me think about that. What that does is it creates a bridge for you so that you're not, when you are thinking, that you don't feel so like,
I need to deliver this
it's
now.
Like the deer in headlights kind of stare. You let everybody, you bring them into your experience, right? So it's like, that's a good question. Let me think about that. And that's a good thing for people to know, that it's okay to be human.
Right.
Inside of the interview
you should
experience.
be being as human as possible. Like you're performing humanity, basically.
It's like, I've never thought about that before. Even if they ask you a technical question or a behavioral, it gives you a moment to be real with them. But I wanted to put a pin in it, but I'm going to push play again and let you, say like, what are the kind of things that you come up with. But I just wanted to acknowledge that is a awesome thing to do. So anyway, taking the pin out and pushing play. Now it's the questions. Like, so give me an example of a question you might ask at the end of an interview.
If it's a job where people get promotions and people move up in this company, how have you fostered a connection with someone on your team before? What did the last person who got a promotion do to get promoted? What are things that the company culture encourages and discourages at this company?
Oh, I love those two questions. Those are forward thinking. They are also showing that you maybe have like an interest in longevity and growth, which for an employer, they love to hear those things because it's expensive to hire people.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and so the thing is that I know sometimes folks will think, even me, right? It's like, oh my goodness, I'm just little old me. My socks don't even match underneath this pantsuit. And, I got these shoes from the thrift store. Like, those are real things. Like, I remember I had like, at one time, like one dark blue and one black trouser sock. And I was like, look, I got to get out of this door. And so now you're wanting to interview me and my socks don't even match. Like, those are the things, like the things of insecurity that run through our minds. Right.
Yeah.
But like, really, if someone brings you into an interview, you have at least met the minimum qualifications and they're interested in you and wanting to get you to know you.
Exactly.
So to hold that in your mind, like when you walk through the door, is a huge confidence boost, because it's like, look, they brought me here because they need somebody to do this job.
Exactly.
And little old me with mismatched socks, hey, they want to hear from me.
Right.
Okay. So asking questions. And you know what too? I think that those two questions that you brought, also highlight something good, that, right, they're authentic things that you really are interested in, but also that show your interest in staying with that company. So I think those are great. Okay, now here's
something I want to touch on here.
Okay, say it.
You are interviewing them too. That whole time that you are showing up in that room, you're interviewing that company to see if you want to work for them.
Yeah.
Because that job offer is going to come, right? Like, if you do really well, hopefully you get a job offer. You need to know if you're going to accept that job offer or not. So
Right.
you need to know, like, is this a company that I want to work for?
Yeah.
So the whole time, look for the red flags. Like, look for the things that, like, do they ask people to, like, when you're asking them questions, ask them questions that would bring about a red flag, like, answer. Like, are they asking people to overextend themselves constantly? Are they, like, really like cliquey at work, like ask things about the office culture. Ask specific questions about the office culture. Don't be just general with the office culture.
Yeah, that's a gem. That really is true. You are interviewing them, and yeah, you brought something to my mind, and it's like it's escaping me now, but I will just settle on the fact that that's like really true. It's not just is do they want me, but do I want them? Are we a really? It's a it's a conversation.
Right.
Are we a good fit for one another?
Right.
This role, this company, and I, because we are ultimately going to be in a relationship, right? Like I'm not just getting a paycheck for sure. Okay, so we like come through the interview, if we're like breaking it down into steps, right? It's like the introduction, the behavioral questions, the technical questions, maybe like the prompt that you had to prepare for. Then they kick it over to you to ask you, do you have any questions? Now we closing it out. I already probably know your answer in this space. Do you have a special something that you do at the closing, or do you just let them say, well, we'll call you? Like, how do you do? And that's a style's of preference, but what do you do to like close the interview? Like, or how do interviews usually like seal up for you?
Swear to God, this is not an egotistical thing. I like to get the last word in. I have to get the last word in.
I knew it.
I have to get one last shot. Like, especially like, you don't know how this interview went. Like, I've had bad interviews. I'm making it sound like I've never had a bad interview before. I've had some bad interviews. But like that's your chance to like really sell yourself one more time. Like one last time. Like one last time. You gotta give it to them.
Yes. Yeah.
Hey, thank you. It's been amazing interviewing with you. I've just had an awesome time talking with you today. You know, just one of those, like just hit them, like just to wrap it up. Because if you bombed before, that could really change the tide of like their entire viewpoint of you as a person.
And that is something that you definitely have control over. Like for folks who maybe potentially are concerned about not being able to prepare for some of those technical questions.
Right.
Or if they feel like that they didn't shine in certain parts of the interview, whether it be behavioral, whether it be the technical portion, this is an opportunity for you to like, if there were, a bump or a bruise in the thing, for you to put like some salve on it, to put a Band-Aid on it, where it's like, and me being transparent, right? Like, I think that one of my professional opportunities for growth is being more structured, because I'm a free-spirited person.
Right.
Right. And so if there were a question that they asked me about my ability around organization, and I didn't necessarily shine right there, right? Like at the end, I would say to them that what I maybe lack in traditional and orthodox structure, that I make up for in passion. And that's true, right? And so what I'm now doing is saying that, so in the areas where maybe there's a concern for you about my growth, or my need for growth in this area, that what I use to compensate for that and to be able to still get the job done is my passion in this way, right? So now what it does is I'm now talking in a way, like you said, that I feel awesome, I feel big, I feel great. It's true, and it helps to seal up some of maybe the concerns that I feel like things that didn't go well during the course of the interview.
And if you're thinking at home, like, that sounds crazy, I would never say something like that, think again. Because that is seriously, like, that's what sells people you. That's what gives people a chance to see the real you. Like, there's so many rare chances, and you have to really nail them in conversation, where you get to show and be 100% yourself. When they say, okay, well, I'm done, do you have anything else? You better lock in.
Yeah.
You better lock into everything that you think about, how the interview went. Keep track of how the interview went. Think about where you slipped up, and if you have a chance to reassure them about that aspect of yourself, you better do it.
Yeah, and so I wouldn't be a career coach, right, if I didn't, or I wouldn't be being fair, right? I think that you and I are building a relationship, and your personality, if I keep saying it like that, you are comfortable in communication, but not everybody that's watching this will be that. There are some things that I've learned over, even just in my own experience, but then through like research and trying to grow in my coaching skills, that there's some things, right, like that you can give to, or not give to, but that can be used, if you are not comfortable, right? And so these are my, if I were going to be Sagey again, right, your resident career coach, that if you are not necessarily that comfortable on the fly in communication, one of those things that you can do to be human, and I say this all the time, right, is like that you can bring in a notepad where maybe you don't necessarily have a prescriptive thing where you have the like things written out, but maybe you have like a listing of bullet points of things that, you know, you can just quickly glance down to help remind you of situations.
Yes.
Right? Like if they ask you a question, you maybe have like, biology project, right? And it's like, oh, this is the time when I worked in a group. Or it might be you're a poli-sci major, the Declaration of Independence analysis, right? Like whatever. And I'm being, I'm just reaching here, but I'm saying that these things now, you have your tablet right there on the paper, and when they ask you something, you can quickly glance down at it, and then it helps you to bring you right back into the moment. Like that's something I want to also share something else too. Like if you bring it in there and you feel like, oh, is that cheating? Like, no, this is a way that you are able to like shine, and you can even like let the air out the bag. Like I took a few little notes before because I want to make sure that I give you my best self.
That's all it takes, and no one will think about it ever again. Like you do not have to feel silly about that. You don't have to feel like that's embarrassing. Like if you need like some form of accommodation, advocate for yourself.
For sure. And you know what else gets people tripped up? And I've experienced it myself, and I've seen others experience it, right? And no, this is what I want you to know. Know that when you're in an interview, that the people who are interviewing you are humans. Okay. Yes. When you get asked that multiple question, it's like 2 or 3 questions in one question. And you answer the first question and you go so far in that you get out there and you're like, I know you asked me something else. And I cannot think of what it is. It's okay while being asked a question to take a note, right? Because it's like you want to make sure that you are able to answer the question well. Or let's say you don't take the notes. If you get out there in your boat, your conversation boat, answering the question, and you lose you lose a paddle, then you use the other one. I know I answered that first question, and this is your other paddle, right? I know that I got lost somewhere. Was there another part of that question? Because I want to make sure, right? Like it's okay to be human right in there.
I've done that in interviews so many times.
I'm telling you. So that would be the thing I would say. You can bring pre-written notes. You can take notes during the interview. You can ask questions in the middle of a question. It's okay to be human. Like that is so thing. Now, here's the thing. After you had your RA interview, and maybe I'm putting you on the spot, but let's say not after your RA interview, but are there things that you do post-interview or you think you should do post-interview to like come behind, to like reassure or like affirm your fit, how well you are fit or how eager you are for that job?
Like for myself or
just in general, like are there any post-interview like decorum or things that you think are like necessary?
Walk out strong.
Okay.
Walk in strong and walk out strong.
Okay.
Keep your head up.
Uh-huh.
Do not drop your head down. Don't like sit there and like walk out like with your tail tucked between your legs. Keep your head up. Good posture. Walk out of that room and power walk all the way out of the building.
Hey.
I always have like some kind of house music playing before an interview or something with like a 4 on the floor beat, just like a boom, 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 boom.
Because that gets you energized.
Yeah. Because you can walk, just do like a model runway walk out of that building, and just with all that confidence in the world.
Yeah.
Because then everybody sees you. Everybody's clocking you.
Yeah. You sell that confidence, and that people are attracted to that. I would say here are the technical things, and this is not everyone is looking for this, but I would say certain things only matter when you don't have them, right? And so let's, like, for example, if you walk up to your house, you never think about your keys. You never think about your keys until it's time to use
That's
them.
perfect.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes.
keys only matter when you need to unlock the door. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't. So I'm saying these things, right? It's like, well, we could do away. Yeah, you can, but sometimes you need to have these things, right? And that's like showing up 10 minutes early.
Always.
Right. And then after the interview, here's another key, right? It's like following up that interview with a thank you note. It's like, thank you for the opportunity, whatever. And it's like this, not all places value that, but for the places that do value it, if you send it, you have the key to go in. So that would be something. I want to close this out just like how we always do. We usually talk about like a tip or a resource that we have at the Career Center, or just that is available, right, in life, for folks who maybe don't get the opportunity to engage directly with the Career Center. We have this platform. It's called Big Interview, right? And Big Interview is like great for so many things, but it's a platform that you can access through the UMBC Career Center's webpage. You can just like Google UMBC Career Center, and then you can look in our resources for Big Interview, and folks can record themselves, right? Like, so there's like all of these like list of like different kinds of interview questions. You can interview yourself by industry or different personality types. They even have like people, like some people are excited and smiling when they're interviewing, and some people give you the like straight face and you don't know what they're thinking. So they give you different ways that you can practice, and you can record yourself, and then you can watch back like how you've performed. So that's definitely one, is like Big Interview. We also at the Career Center do like interview prep, where you can do a practice interview with us that's recorded or not recorded. Yeah. Or you can just come in and kind of like have a vibe session like how we're having right now. And it doesn't have to, you don't have to physically come to the Career Center to have an appointment. You can have an appointment virtually or even over the phone. So just depending on a person's comfort level or what they need, they can also be supported, by the staff here at the Career Center. So just kind of in closing, there's so many things. And listen, YouTube University, I am not going to be like the bottleneck of information, right? There are many ways that you can prepare for an interview, whether it be using our platform, Big Interview, or if it's engaging with the Career Center, either in person, on like a virtual meeting, or over the phone. But like I said, or you can just click into YouTube or Google and like interview prep.
So many people are giving so much good advice.
Yeah. So that would be it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening and watching. We'll see you later.